Hey there, America. Welcome to the party. It's time once again for trunks
and asses. See, I tried to match it that time. That was good, right?
Getting better. So, we'll just say welcome back again. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you for watching as always. We're going to try and keep the energy. We're going to try and keep it going. We're going to make sure that we are staying on top of the topics that impact us all. So we're going to start with our inspirational quote. Once again, as usual, it's part of our segment that we like to call, history repeats itself. Any man who says he's an American, but something else also, isn't an American at all. We have room for but one flag, the American flag. We have room for but one language here, and that's the English language. And we have room for but one sole loyalty, and that is a loyalty to the American people. That was our president, Theodore Roosevelt, also known as Teddy, and the leader of the Rough Riders. So that kind of leads us into our topic for today.
Hold on, I got a counterpoint about that, because he talks about anyone who calls himself an American should only and nothing else.
I'm gonna need a drink for this.
And I agree with that. If you call yourself an American, you should call yourself nothing else. However, the whole English thing being the only language and all of that, I disagree with that. Because so many people, countless immigrants, come through Ellis Island every year. And there's this big, beautiful statue given to us.
When you say come through, you mean used to come through.
Used to come through. Sorry, I've been drinking. It happens.
So you're about to give us another quote? So
there is a beautiful statue on that island called the Statue of Liberty. It was
given to us. That's not on Ellis Island. That's on Liberty Island.
This guy. There is a beautiful statue standing in the harbor next to Ellis Island that has a poem written on it, and it says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your tempted shore. Send these, the homeless, tempted tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." So,
was that written in English?
Yes.
I was just wondering. So that brings us to our topic today. We are going to be covering immigration.
Did he seriously just do the hat turn? Did you just do that?
I did the hat turn. I did that.
Okay.
So this is a topic that we've covered multiple times offline, and we're going to bring it to you guys today. Most important, we're going to try to hit as much as we can in the time that we have remaining here before we sign off. And one of the biggest reasons why, again, a lot of this has to do with the midterm elections that are coming up. And as per one of the other videos that we made, especially here in Tennessee where we are, the immigration and the wall has come up many times in that race. So that is also one of the topics that our president, Donald Trump, ran on, was building a border wall, increasing border security, and definitely tightening up on our security on all of America's borders and ports of entry, but in particular our southern border, which is of particular interest right now because there's a large group of people who are trying to make a forced migration into the United States. So that security is going to be tested, and it has come to a discussion within the media as well as in Congress. How should we go out and deal with this forced migration that these group of people are trying to do, and what should we meet them with? Should this be considered even a type of invasion because someone is trying to force their way into our borders? So I personally have my feelings about our border security, and I have felt for a long time, I've been saying this for many years now, I actually think that we should extend the borders of the United States, not to the actual southern border of the United States, but we should partner with our neighbors to the south in Mexico and extend the southern border actually to their southernmost border along their borders with Guatemala and Belize, because it's a much smaller portion of territory to defend, and that you can put up a fence and erect it for a much more economical rate.
So pause for the cause. Are we taking Mexico on as a state? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I would love to take Mexico on as a state, but no, that's not what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
I'm suggesting as part of our agreement under the NAFTA and the new form of NAFTA, we should have made that part of it and said that Mexico should erect tighter border security, because actually the majority of the people who enter into the United States illegally through our southern border actually aren't Mexicans.
No, they're not.
They're
Honduran and
Salvadorian.
Yeah, and from Central America.
Yes. So Mexico would be willing, if they were willing to help us defense that border by being willing to, and they do actually have a rather militarized border on the southern side of Mexico, particularly with Guatemala, because here's another little known fact most people don't know. Mexico and Guatemala have not actually been very friendly neighbors with each other and have fought at least 2 wars on that border. So their border is highly militarized and has actually quite a bit of fencing and walling, as well as very dense jungles, and in some places some few what would be considered a mountainous area, but not necessarily rocky mountain type area, but it's rather difficult to get across. So it would be easily
kind of like our current southern border, right?
Actually, our current southern border is actually rather easy to cross.
In some places.
In some places. Some wait a lot more than others, but there are some places where people typically would think, because most people go, hey, there's a river on our southern border, except for the Rio Grande. In some places you can walk across. It's as shallow as like a foot deep.
Yeah.
And many liberal outlets who now decry and say, hey, well, our southern border already has natural defense on it, were some of those same liberal outlets that during Ronald Reagan's administration and George W. Bush's administration would do hit pieces saying how easily it was to cross those borders. And I find that kind of funny that now how they kind of move back and forth depending on who is in political power and what they
Both
feel.
sides do that.
I agree, but I'm just saying that was one of the things, because I can remember a hit piece being done by 60 Minutes where they actually walked back and forth across the border 4 times to prove how easy it was to cross the border. And this was, again, before Donald Trump came to power and before...
Well, let's talk about that, though, okay? So we want to talk about Donald Trump wanting to build the wall, okay? And you can feel however you want to about that. But this is one of the many disagreements I have with our president. I'm not for open borders. I never have been, and I don't think I ever will be.
Thank you. You're already closer to me than probably about 70% of your party.
No, because if you actually sit down and talk to us, no Democrat that I know is actually for open borders.
That is not true, because I know somebody who served with you on your college Democrats who was very much so in favor of open borders.
Adrian?
Yes.
Adrian's not for open borders.
He has said that to me.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. Okay. Well, so my point that I was trying to make was I'm not for open borders, and I'm for border security. But President Obama deported more illegal immigrants than the previous several administrations combined. He increased spending and technology on border security. He increased ICE presence on the border. My question is...
Well, then that sounds like the video's over. You're saying that you agree with me.
Wait. My question is, how much more do you want? And my second question
told you
is...
what else I want.
My second question is... why did we think Donald Trump was the guy to fix this particular problem? Because I don't think he really realizes where all the illegal immigration comes from. Because if you go back, to the presidential election, he was always attacking Mexicans and illegal immigrants in general. And I'm not saying that, everybody's a saint. And there are people that get harmed by people that are illegal immigrants.
Was he attacking Mexicans or people who came in through the Mexican border?
He said Mexicans. That was literally his word.
No, he said those people who come in from Mexico. He didn't say Mexicans.
No, he said Mexicans a couple of times. I mean, yeah, he
said no. The quote in particular that people like to quote him. He said those people who come in from Mexico, they come in here and they're not good people.
But let's be serious here. Does he really care what nationality they are? They're all brown to him.
Oh, now you're saying that it's a race issue.
No, I'm not saying it's a race issue. I'm just saying it's a fact that he called them murderers and rapists and all these terrible things.
He says these people were coming in illegally. They're not good people.
And they're murderers and rapists and gang members.
Are there murderers and rapists and gang members who are coming in?
Yeah, but there's also doctors and lawyers
who
and
are coming into
political refugees and teachers.
So you're trying to tell me that there's
plumbers and bakers and...
Are you trying to say that there are a large contingent of doctors and lawyers who are coming in through the southern border?
No, but what I'm saying
illegally. Illegally.
What I am saying is to come to this country legally is a lot more complicated than you would think.
Oh, I might have a little bit of background on that. Because my mother, who was born in Mexico and raised in Belize, entered this country illegally. That is the thing that I have. So, and I know what it took for her to get her legal citizenship.
Right.
My stepfather, who entered this country legally, came from India, and I know what it took for him to get his citizenship. My grandmother, who was a native of Belize, because she was born in Belize and she was a citizen of Belize, came here and she had a green card, and I know what it took for her to get there. My college roommate, who is a citizen of Panama.
Not Panama City?
He is from Panama City. Panama. He also came into this country legally, and I know what it took for him to get his green card and what he goes through every single year to maintain his legal immigrant status with that green card.
And isn't that overreaching? Do you not feel like that's overreaching? Do you not feel like that there shouldn't be an easier process?
No, I do not feel there should be an easier process. I feel, and I can give you another instance. Most of the most liberal nations in the world have a much more stringent process.
How
do I know? Because I have tried recently to get a position in England. It is an impossibility for me to go and legally work in England and to immigrate there. Mm-hmm. Impossible. They're not open to it. Oh, if I can get a company that is willing to sponsor me and show that they are going to pay for me and my family to move, because they would have to sponsor me and my wife, and thus our children, to come over there. They don't want to do it because it is so much more stringent and difficult. For an American to go to England, for an American to go to Europe, also very equally difficult.
Well, Europe is very broad. I mean, like
Europe operates as
under the EU.
And that's how they handle immigration, because they operate under one system. Because once you are immigrated into one country, you are now allowed
Actually, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Once you enter into one country that's part of the EU, you are now legally able to work in every country within the EU. That's why I say Europe. Because
I didn't know
it operates as a block. Which, by the way, goes back to what I was saying about NAFTA, and if we would have extended that border down to Mexico, and then that gets into economic implications that I would like to have put onto Mexico as well to make NAFTA a much stronger organization. NAFTA to me is a joke because it encourages this immigration of in the illegal manner from particularly from the southern border, because we don't put the requirements that the EU has on its member nations as far as making sure that they're contributing a certain amount, making sure that they're trying to bring their economies up to a certain level, the banking implications, in other words, the central banking implications that they enact on those member nations. That's the reason why they also have that single block of immigration and why we didn't do that in the United States. We would have done that with NAFTA, except for Mexico was never going to agree to that because we were going to hold them to the standards that we had in the United States of our minimum wage and them having to be able to provide certain protections to
and now people. That they haven't done that, that's why the cartels are running rampant in Mexico and the government has very little, if any, power left.
Exactly. And Mexico has been that way for quite some time. And again, their border is much easier to protect. If they would have been willing to do that and come up to and be brought to the standards of Canada and the United States, it's hands down easier to defend the border between Mexico and Guatemala than it is to defend the border between the United States and Mexico. I agree. It is difficult to build that wall on a U.S. southern border. But it is something that you have to say. It's something that you have to do. It's something that you have to do in order to discourage it. It's much like when Ronald Reagan came into office and he discouraged the Cold War by drawing Russia into some ridiculous space war where we were going to do Star Wars and we were saying, hey, we're going to fire lasers at all your missiles. And Russia tried to, because we made them extend, trying to think how to beat us.
He broke the Soviet Union.
So, also speaking of Ronald Reagan, you know that Ronald Reagan granted the largest amount of amnesty to immigrants, illegal immigrants within the United States when he was president, because he was trying to combat this problem. And then that was supposed to have started down that border of NAFTA that we never got to that ultimate goal that we were trying to do.
I had my own problems with NAFTA.
And then when you say someone who, why do we think that Donald Trump is the person to be able to do this? Well, why would we have thought that Ronald Reagan was the person to have done that? I mean, he was an actor. He'd been governor of...
Right, but he wasn't standing up calling people murderers and rapists and generalizing the whole group of people into one.
That people in your party would actually argue with that. They often called Ronald Reagan a huge racist and said that he...
Well, he was racist.
And, oh my gosh, wow. And then... we'll have to come
Topic for a different time.
And they say that he criminalized a lot of activities in California that should not have been criminalized, and came down especially hard on gangs and those kind of elements in California, and started kind of that prison explosion of black and brown people in California. So then when he came in and was willing to now decriminalize people who are legally...
But he didn't stand up there and call them the N-word. He didn't stand up there.
Did Donald Trump stand up there and call somebody?
Whoa! Let me finish my point. He didn't stand up there and call them all drug dealers. He didn't stand up there and call them all rapists. He didn't call them all murderers.
He didn't say everybody who immigrates in the United States are like that. Okay. He never said that.
He said the ones that illegally did. And he continues to make a point every time he wants to talk about immigration to invite families that have been harmed by illegal immigrants, to bring it to the forefront like it's this big national issue. Is it an issue? Yes. Is it important? Yes. Is it that big of a deal?
Do you know so far this year that ICE has arrested 200,000 people who have committed violent...
Yeah, a couple of those thousand have been in the state of Tennessee in Johnson City when they did that big raid at the beginning of the year. Yes, I'm fully aware of that.
They have been involved in sexual crimes such as rapes. They've been involved in murders. They've been involved in assaults.
And so has ICE. There have been allegations of the corruption of the...
So, yes, there are bad people who wind up in
there are bad people in both sides of the aisle, is what I'm saying. You're not...
But ICE is not a side of the aisle. They're a police force. There are bad policemen that have done that, but that doesn't...
And there are bad immigrants that do bad things.
But because there are bad policemen, does that mean that you do away with their department? That's like saying because there was...
Well, the radical side of my party would say yes, we should get rid of police force in general, as we know it.
That's what I'm saying. Because if you look at... There was a bad police officer in Nashville who was affiliated with gang activity and was giving information to the gang so that they could circumvent the Nashville Police Department. So that would be saying that just because of that one person, we should get rid of the entire Nashville Police Department and just let crime run rampant.
No, I'm saying ICE is the most corrupt police force in the federal government. And they have more civilian complaints filed against them more than any other federal policing agency. And they have more officers knocked off duty than any other agency in the federal government. That's what I'm saying.
One, I can't verify those statistics because I haven't seen them. But if that is true, that would have to do more with the training of the officers, one. And it also has to do with the sensitivity that certain people know that they have within these forces. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if you go and you took a look at the difference between the complaints of Nashville City, which is typically a more conservative city in and of itself, than versus New York City. Did I what? If you're going to talk about the sheer size of the two cities, well, we're also talking about a border that has thousands of miles, and ICE is also an enforcement agency that goes into every single city within the nation. So that's why they have to be so large, and that's why you're ultimately...
No, I was laughing at the fact that you called Nashville conservative.
Nashville is more conservative than New York City. I didn't say Nashville was a conservative city.
Yeah.
Nashville is more conservative. Nashville is more conservative than New York, L.A., Chicago.
Seattle.
Yes. There's many cities that Nashville is way more conservative than.
I even feel like we're more conservative than Atlanta, but...
So, anyway.
I just, this is a very sensitive topic. And people have strong issues or strong opinions about it. And obviously, Kenneth and I, this is one that we don't see eye to eye with. I personally believe that it should not cost you thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars every so many years to renew your green card. I do not think...
It does not... Oh, that is a falsehood. And again, I have family members. My own uncle is a green card holder, and it does not cost him thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars to renew his green card. It is actually... and he...
Cost him quite a bit to get it, though, didn't it?
Well, no, because when he first got his green card, he was about 8 years old when he first entered into the United States. My mother, it did cost her, I think the total was $10,000 in fees and penalties because she entered into the United States illegally to get her green card. And I would think that is actually something that's relatively low in the scale, considering that she came into the country illegally. She... went and she has occupied positions. Now, the one thing that my mother did do that helped to allow her to not have a larger penalty is she obtained a Social Security card because she came in the 70s where it was easier to obtain a Social Security card because it wasn't like they were checking as stringently. And also my mother served in the military while, by the way, still an illegal immigrant. Because
which millions of dreamers do still to this day, and Donald Trump wants to send them home.
Legally, that is his right to do. Now, again, the United States military often comes, and this is why I think that's kind of a red herring that the left throws out there. Oftentimes, the military comes along because they know that these people exist, and they find their ways in, though it's becoming more difficult as we have biometric scans and fingerprinting and DNA testing that keeps track of people throughout the United States, and especially in our armed services now. It's harder now because my mother was able to obtain a falsified birth certificate in order to serve at her time, which allowed her to get...
Well, they were promised...
But hold on, sorry, I'll let you get to your point. So the military ever so often allows these people amnesty, and then they forgive what they've done, and they don't send them back home. But the thing with the dreamers who are there now, they have circumvented the process, and they knew they were circumventing the process even when they went into the military, because it's quite a different, again, situation now than when my mother joined the military in the 70s for those who were going in and doing it.
But they wanted to serve the only country that they've ever known. They wanted to give back to the country that have made them the person that they are today. And these are not just military members. These are teachers, these are doctors, these are nurses, these are attorneys, these are business managers, these are parents, these are church members, these are a lot of things. These people are a lot of things. They represent...
They are. And I don't understand why the left can't say it. They're criminals.
But why?
Because they broke the law. That's why.
They didn't break... They had no choice.
They have a choice now.
So they're just supposed to pack up and go back to where their parents came from? No matter if their parents left because they were going to be killed by the cartels and they couldn't tell the federal government that because the federal government wouldn't grant them amnesty because they couldn't prove that they would be killed when they got back.
That is absolutely not true. Because you know why we're trying to stop those people who are marching up from Central America right now at Mexico rather than allowing them to get to our borders? And we're talking about should we take our military and actually incur into Mexico, because once those people reach the United States border, the actual U.S. border, and they say we are applying for amnesty, we have to allow them in and we have to check every single story.
Okay.
That's the law.
So?
No,
why is that bad?
because most of them are probably making these stories up.
Okay, and we'll find that out.
Do you know how hard it is to now go to their country and expend the tax dollars to check? By the way, I think there's something like 3,000 people in this caravan. 3,000 people.
Very minutely compared to the defense budget that we spend every year.
You know why our defense budget is so high? Because we're paying for everybody else's wars and their defense.
But
so don't throw out the defense budget, because that could be a whole nother episode, because I have some more insights on the defense budget.
How about the tax cuts? We could have spent we could have took the money that we would have saved during the tax cuts had it not passed and spent it on
Well, then, since we care so much about these people who are coming into our country illegally and breaking the law, how about we take it from welfare? Because those people are already here. And they already have the opportunities. These people are trying to come into the United States.
Depends on what you're talking about, welfare.
No, regular welfare.
What do you consider welfare?
People who are getting.
Are you talking Social Security?
No, I didn't say social services programs. I actually said the word welfare. That is an actual.
So disability.
No, I didn't say SSI. See, that's what the left always tries to do. They try to wrap it all up into one. People who are...
No, we don't try to wrap it all up in one. Mitch McConnell stood on the front steps of the Capitol the other day and said he wanted to cut Social Security and Medicaid to help pay for these tax cuts.
If you want to pay for the people, you're saying, let's bring these people in. So then let's take it from the people, because these people who are coming in, you're saying, oh, these people, they're going to be... people who are going to be doctors, lawyers, teachers, firefighters. You threw all those terms out, right? So if they're coming in, they're going to be viable members of society. Therefore, they're going to have Social Security numbers and want to pay into our nation. Why don't we let them in? We let them go work. And people who are sitting on their butts at home, who are collecting a check every month, who are able to work, but yet have, because of the system that has been established by the Democrats for a long, long time, and you can't argue that, because we...
Oh, no, but I can. Because the acts that you're talking about were passed by Republicans, not Democrats.
Oh, that is not true.
And signed into law by a Republican.
No.
Yes.
Nope.
Yes.
The way that welfare exists right now actually came about primarily under Lyndon Johnson, where they incentivized... But
it was changed in the 80s by Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan actually reduced the amount that these people could actually get, and then it was reduced even further, ironically, by Bill Clinton, but that was because his hand was forced by the Republican Congress, and then reduced even further by George W. Bush. But the reason why it wasn't completely repealed as... when Congress was taken by the Senate and the House were taken by Republicans under Bill Clinton, is because there were still enough Democrats who, by the way, that was back when they still had the filibuster, because they were wanting to completely repeal the Welfare Act. stood up and did
still
a full-time
have
filibuster. It does not have the teeth that it used to have, and you know this.
We still have it though.
But so again, we could take those dollars that are going into programs like Section 8 that typically go to people who are able to go out and work and find paying jobs. Who can?
It doesn't typically go to those people. I don't know if you. It's actually rather difficult to get on welfare.
No, actually, it isn't.
Actually, it is.
I can tell you one from my family's own.
I can tell you from my personal experience, it is not that easy.
How hard do you think it is to get SNAP benefits?
Actually, it took me about 6 months to a year.
It took me and my family of 4, and in a year where I made $70,000, but I lost my job in, I think it was October of that year.
We're going down a rabbit hole. You know this. Okay.
Well, the reason why I did it was because I was like, heck, I've already paid into this. Why don't I go and take advantage of a program? I have no problem with taking advantage of a program that's out there that would help me for a temporary benefit. And that's where I believe welfare should be and what it was originally intended for. And the SNAP benefits were originally intended for. It's for short-term gaps in employment and
all I'm
coverages.
saying is...
Hey, hold on. So you were saying how difficult it is. It took me all of about 1 month. And that, to me, that seemed to take a very long time just because I was like, hell, I've paid all this money into it. Why don't you want to just give it to me? And it took me about a month to go and get it. And actually, the biggest hindrance to the program, you want to know what it is? It's because of the ethnicities that I wrote down on my paperwork for my children. That was the biggest hindrance to me getting the program. Also, if you're an unemployed single mother, it is almost guaranteed that you will instantly get SNAP benefits in WIC. So it's not that difficult. In other words, we're encouraging people to be unwed single parents because that makes it easier for you to get your benefits. Why don't we? If
ridiculous.
If it is truly designed for people to get the benefits, then what we would do is we would say, hey, if you're going to be a married couple and you're going to be working towards some way of getting out of this situation, we will give you benefits. And as you increase, we will decrease your benefits. Not as soon as you make $10 an hour, we turn them off, because that also encourages someone to not work. And those are certain levels that were put in prior to the Republican leadership. And in the future, we can go down those rabbit holes and we'll make citations and show people where exactly everything comes, because these are very clear areas. But anyway, that's not part of the immigration debate. My whole point of getting on that was, since you want to let these people in from the southern border who you're saying are coming in and they're going to be meaningful members of our society in the United States and are really just wanting to get that brass ring that everybody's always talking about, the streets are paved with gold, because you gave the quote that was on the Statue of Liberty. Then why don't we let them in and we can then use the dollars that we're taking out of these benefits for people who are able to work and who are already here and should be wanting to live this dream, and take those dollars and apply it towards these people and to vetting them and making sure that they are the right people who are coming into our country. And then I'd be more than willing to let them in. That's where I was going with all that.
Well, I just think that instead of spending, I don't see the problem in giving people a shot. This country was founded on immigration.
Nope, that is not true.
We're not going down that route.
No, that's what this episode is for.
No, because I already went down. Yes, it was.
Not founded.
Yes, it was.
No, it was not. It was not.
Okay.
Matter of fact, actually, in the Constitution of the United States, they made a provision that said only if it was founded on immigration, they would have said that anybody who came here could be president. No, they did not. They actually wrote it into the Constitution that only people who were here on that day.
How did those people get here?
Conquering. They conquered this nation.
Okay.
They didn't immigrate to it. They fought wars with the people who were here, the indigenous people of this. Mm-hmm. You're telling me that didn't happen?
No, I'm just saying
they conquered these people. Yeah, no, they conquered and slaughtered many times these people. The French in Indian War, which was ironically not a war between France and the Indians, it was a war between Britain and England. Was fought because the British were coming in and the French were more compassionate towards the natives and actually fought with them, while the British had a couple of small tribes that they fought with, and they were going out and they were just trying to push the natives completely out, and the French were like, no, we trade with these people. That was part of what happened. The founder of your party, Andrew Jackson, he is very famous for going in and continuing to slaughter people as part of his expansion of the United States.
That's what I said a couple of episodes ago. Unfortunately,
I'm like, the people who came here were conquerors. They weren't immigrants. They didn't go to the natives. Hey, would you mind allowing us to come and partaking in your land? We would. Here's our passport from Britain. Can we have a visa? No, they landed and they were like, this is England.
Okay, we agreed to disagree on that.
So anyway. We've gone beyond our time.
Very much so. Now that I look at it.
And as you can see, there are many topics that we do not agree on, this being one. We'd love to see where you guys stand on this. Do you have an ask for today, or am I it?
No, my ask for this week, today, whatever, is for our great majority leader, Mitch McConnell. He's such a turtle of a man.
Oh, don't do personal attacks.
I'm not doing personal attacks. He looks like a turtle. You put a picture of him and a picture of a turtle next to each other, they look similar. That's all I'm saying. And I would never say anything on camera that I wouldn't say to his face. And I would love to say more to his face, but that's for a different point in time. He just irritates me because he is at the point in his career that he's been in Washington for so long and he's so rooted in his seat that he has no fear of actually facing a legitimate challenger in the state of Kentucky, that he just says whatever he wants to. And it just amazes me some of the things that he and Paul Ryan actually want to accomplish. Like, Paul Ryan has been on record for years saying that he wants to get rid of Medicaid and Medicare. He wants to get rid of Social Security completely.
Yeah, but that's not Mitch McConnell.
I'm getting there. I'm about to make the tie-in as we speak. So, earlier this week, Mitch McConnell decided that the way we're going to pay for these new tax cuts is entitlement cuts. So we're going to take money from the poorest people and give it to the richest people. I don't understand how he just plays just like Harry Reid. I never understood how Harry Reid continually got elected into office. They both obstruct as much as they possibly can, and it's just infuriating to me that they are simply unable and not willing to sit down and have a conversation with the other side and work out a plan. And my side's no better. Okay, but at least Chuck Schumer and Nancy went to the White House to discuss negotiations about immigration, and they left with a plan, and the administration backed out. Okay, I can say that for my side. Now, granted, Donald Trump was the one that reached out for the meeting, and I will give the president credit for that. But it's just infuriating to me how the leader of the Senate is so unwilling to meet with his counterpart on the other side of the aisle and hear the opinions of the other side. And I know he doesn't have to. He has the majority. He can do, now that we've gotten rid of the filibuster, he can do whatever he wants to do.
Well, you said it still exists.
It doesn't have the teeth like it used to.
Oh, now you're quoting me.
But the hyper-partisanship, really, that's my ass of the week. The hyper-partisanship in Washington is sickening to me, and I'm so disgusted and so tired of it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Continue to subscribe, and just chill till the next episode.